I mentioned Republicans are scrambling to respond to their devastating losses on Tuesday. Most of them are so off the mark that we will return to them to laugh for just a minute. But one Fox News host had a moment of clarity. They lost because of Trump, and they need to plan for the post-MAGA future. And they need to start doing that now, because the post-MAGA, post-Trump future seems like it might not be that far away. So here is what Brit Hume had to say on the president's favorite channel, Fox News.
I don't think you ever need to look very far in our current politics without wondering what the effect of Donald Trump was and is. I was struck by what was coming out of Mikie Sherrill's campaign tonight, that he was a big factor in the race as far as she was concerned, and resistance to him was that. There was a number that was cited earlier from our polling data that showed that something like 70% of the voters on her side that were acting to resist Donald Trump. If he's not on there himself, his voters are much less interested than they might otherwise be. So that as the Republican Party moves forward here under his leadership, they have to start thinking about what it's going to be like when he's gone, and what it's going to be like in next year when we have a midterm election in which he will not be on the ballot, but the fortunes of his administration very much will be.
So that segment might have actually prompted this legendary level of quote from Trump. This is what he posted on Truth Social on election night. He said in all capital letters, Trump wasn't on the ballot, and shut down were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to pollsters. And Donald Trump, I think he's finally maybe coming to the realization that there's a good chance that he's never going to be on the ballot again, despite what seems to be his best efforts and also Steve Bannon's best efforts. But now he has to watch the movement, the so-called movement that he built, die without its leader, its cult leader, because this is very much so a cult of personality. We've been saying that for a long time. And now the fact that Republicans are scrambling so hard to figure out what to do once there is no Trump at the head, JD Vance seems to be the guy that they're pinning all of their hopes on. And I don't know if he's going to be able to pull it off. So one person that thinks his clown shoes are big enough to fit in Trump's place is Ron, not McDonald, Ron DeSantis. DeSantis gave arguably the most ridiculous theory as to why their side lost so badly.
Jack would have won 4 years ago, and he would have won tonight if you just take all the Republicans who've left New Jersey since I've been governor and moved to Florida. If they could have still voted in New Jersey, he would have won both of those races. Same thing with New York City, maybe not a Republican, but Giuliani would not be able to win with this electorate the way it is now. You look at all 49 other states since I've been governor, look at who's migrated to Florida. All 49, more Republicans have moved to Florida than Democrats. Vermont, New York, Illinois, you name it.
So despite DeSantis's best attempts at coping for what happened on Tuesday, it doesn't really explain what we saw happen. So just one example, in Virginia, Democrats flipped 13 state house seats, which brought their majority from 51 to 64 members of the 100-member lower house across the state, as Virginia's population has also been steadily increasing. So Brett, there's so much to unpack from what happened on Tuesday night, and the Republicans, it seems that even Trump, they're not trying to sugarcoat what happened. There's no way for them to even do that. All the candidates that Trump endorsed, they lost significantly. And we saw he endorsed the Republican governor's candidate in Virginia. He also endorsed Andrew Cuomo. And I feel like for Andrew Cuomo, that should have served as a mirror for him. As far as I know, he still identifies as a Democrat. He ran as an independent, but Trump endorsed him over the actual Republican candidate. There was no chance that Curtis Lewitt was gonna win, but I guess it was like, maybe let's do whatever we can do to get Mamdani out of the mayor's office. But we're seeing the Republicans actually start to take seriously what's about to happen to them, to their party, to the MAGA movement, everything. We're seeing a lot of backlash, or not backlash, but Trump is really starting to get a little bit more militant about his efforts to curb Democrats from being able to do anything. I think we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. Brett, how do you think they're going to be able to? Are they going to be successful in their efforts to consolidate power even further to the point where the Democrats won't even be able to do what they want to do, even if they are winning elections?
So Trump is unpopular. Is the easiest way to put it. He is wildly unpopular. There is chaos in the Republican Party as they fight over whether they're like the party of Nick Fuentes or Ted Cruz in the wake of all of this. And I think if we're looking forward toward like JD Vance is not talented enough as a politician and a speaker in order to do this. He's talented enough to switch between establishments of parties, but he's not talented enough to really appeal to the base of parties, which is actually quite impressive given the fact that he comes from a working class, impoverished background, right? You'd think you'd be able to at least seem like you understand what people's lives are like. But no, he's like a venture capitalist in, like expensive clothing. In terms of like people leaving New Jersey to go to Texas or Florida, sure. Those are the people like they didn't stay and fight, they just left. I don't know what I'm supposed to think about that, or what I'm supposed to do with that information. Obviously, the move is to, have these states get redder or bluer and then have midterm redistricting to try to bolster your position from like your places that everybody has retreated to. But that model doesn't really work because a lot of people who leave those cities go to cities if they're leaving at all. But like, they end up in Austin and they look around and they're like, oh God, I'm not really like a red Republican. I kind of like this city thing. I can't get sign on to all the rest of it. But like these LA will occasionally, LA had Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richard Riordan, Ronald Reagan, like New York, I had Giuliani. Yes, when it gets bad. Like when it gets bad enough, it's obviously not quote bad enough. People like this. I think the cope was most clear to me, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, is there was a lower third on Laura Ingram's show that said, by winning, Democrats are losing. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about they are relying so much on old stuff that they aren't making new wins. So the Orwellian nature of that lower third and banking on Trump's Trump's riz, I guess. He just doesn't have any of that. He's underwater by 13 points in the latest Newsweek poll. He's not managing negotiations well over the closure of the government. Like that's his thing, is he's the negotiator. So, and he wins and then he loses because he's a better marketer than he is a governor. And that's it. He can tell you what's wrong with the problem. He can tell you the problem, but he can't actually execute a solution. And we're once again in that. And the previous time it happened, it was a blue wave.
And he does that thing where he just says the things that he thinks he needs to say, and then people believe him for some reason, even though he gets fact checked every time he says something. And we do have some examples of that later on in the show as well. But I do have to say before we wrap up this story, it's not all fun and games. Steve Bannon is now calling for Trump to overturn 2 of the elections from Tuesday. There is some good news though, and that is that you won't have to hear his voice because these remarks come from a post-election interview with Politico. Here is what he had to say to Politico. He said 2 things I would do. Number 1, get Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon and the Justice Department to go out and file suit against the scam of California Governor Gavin Newsom on this redistricting plan that went against the Constitution of California. Just a reminder that the people of California voted for this and the people of Texas did not vote for the redistricting. He said, I would get the Justice Department to file suit, go get a temporary restraining order immediately. and then hit this thing and drag it out for a year. Number two, he said, I would get DHS, the State Department, and the Justice Department looking immediately at Mamdani, who I am convinced did not get citizenship in a fair and honest way, and get those two things rolling. Bannon said, this feels like the birther movement all over again. And in this country where the Republicans keep redefining what it means to be a real American, and they keep, rewriting the rules as to how one can become an American and which is American enough. Of course they're going to come after Mamdani, who is an immigrant, who is what is he, a naturalized citizen?
Yep.
So this was only a matter of time before we got here. It was brought up, I think, during the election, during his campaign, but this is, they're just attacking him now for something that, you can be a naturalized citizen and get elected as mayor. You can't be president, but you can be a mayor of New York City. So